Maybe it's time to create that next generation. More and more I'm hearing from owners, they don't care. They're just going to shut the doors and go home. They've had their life. And the last issue we face with owners all the time is pride. It's tough for an owner to look in the mirror. Owners don't like the unknown. It is tough to admit that maybe there could be a better way. So when you talk about margin control, labor, material, insurance, fuel costs, costs of money, so many things impact what goes on, how you people execute, what your competition does, what's going on in the economy. Just so many things impact you, but you have to, if you set that you need a 32% gross profit, you need to get a 32% gross profit. So we recently worked with a contractor in New Jersey, about 30 million in revenue, and he would not, under any circumstances, allow us to get his labor under control. So how he bid his work versus how he executed his work resulted in losses on his financial statement. And I'm not talking about 1 month. I'm talking about consistent losses. Losses kill cash flow. Payroll kills cash flow if it's not controlled. Would not listen to us. Sad to say, this gentleman, who's a very nice guy, is spending all of his time now with bankruptcy counsel. Liquidity. Cash is by far and away the oxygen every business needs to breathe. Liquidity. Cash. I said it before, I'll say it again. Cash is king is a cliche. How you handle cash and liquidity is what matters. And I'm going to give you a phrase that maybe you haven't thought of so much. Free cash flow versus cash flow. How do you measure that? And do you measure that? So banks, I don't know who's applied for loans or who hasn't recently, but banks, here's what we hear lately. We got a lot of yeses. I want to talk to you. Yes, I think we could do that. Yes, we're working on it. It probably is going to get done. I got to get it through underwriting. And then it goes to crickets. Why? Because banks don't care. You have to care. You should only apply to a bank when your balance sheet is so strong, it's non-negotiable. Equity. That's always a way to bring in capital or bring in cash. I don't believe in it. I don't think you should ever give up percentage of your business while you plan to be running it. There are strategies you can, but equity for cash is something I'm not a fan of. Debt service. What's your monthly debt service? It kills cash flow, guys. What's your monthly debt service? We have a client right now up in New England whose business has gone from 34 million to 9 million. His debt service is killing him. And he never measured his debt service as a percentage of revenue or free cash flow. And we got a fight on our hands. The last source of funding is friends and family. I'm not a fan of friends and family funding. And I'm going to give you 2 quick examples of what I mean. You know a young lady who started her own business some years ago and decided to start it with a credit card. She wasn't going to borrow from her family, from her friends, from anyone in her circle, and she was not taking on a partner. She had a credit card that had about a $35,000 credit limit. And her logic was, is if this blew up after 2 months, she paid off for $200, $300 a month for the rest of her life. She wasn't taking in a partner. That business grew to $9 million in 3 years and got sold. I'm going to give you a second story. This one is me, personally, me. One of my brothers called me one day, asked me to borrow $80,000 to buy a business. And I said to him, John, you don't have the $80,000? I do, but I don't want to use my money. I said, do you have equity in your home? I do, but I don't want to tap it. I said, how do you plan to pay this back? I haven't thought about it. I said, don't call me again. Not for that. Want to call me for family stuff? No problem. Not for that. Last point on cash. The line of credit's not your money, guys. If you're in that line of credit and you have to be in it all the time, don't kid yourself thinking you're in it because you're growing so fast. That's not a fair way to look at things. You're deceiving yourself. Don't do that. Next category is people. I believe every company has special assets. Based on the type of business you are, you have your own set of assets, whether it's inventory, receivables, equipment, trucks, buildings, land, processes, partnerships. You pick it, you have your unique set of assets. But the one asset everybody has is people, and it is the only one that is a difference maker for you. how you treat people, how you gain people, how you hire people, how you keep them really matters. And I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Why should folks line up at your door to work with you? Not for you, with you. Are you going to empower them? Are you going to train them? Are you going to give them opportunity? And how are you going to do that and thread the needle between entitlement and opportunity? That ball is in your court. But people is your key driver in a business. It's got to be your number one asset. Transitioning. I've never seen more emotional and sensitive a topic with owners. And we deal with hundreds and hundreds of business owners a year, and we've worked with thousands of independent owners across the continental United States in our 40 years in existence, 40 years come October. The most sensitive topic is always that owner stepping away or transitioning to that next level of ownership, whether it's the next generation, selling to private equity, selling to a third party, creating an ESOP, whatever that strategy is, it is the most gut-wrenching and emotional situation I can think of. Had a client here in Orlando that had grown from 25 to 100 million, 25 million to 100 million over a 10, 12-year period. Decided to sell, sold 98, 96% to private equity, got a huge payout, regretted it 2 months later. Wished they never did it. It is gut-wrenching to give up your child. And before you just hand it over to the next of kin, make sure they are battle-weary, battle-tested, and prepared to take over and walk in your shoes. Here's the toughest one I deal with every day, every day, every day. Ownership pride. Ownership pride. You've built it. You know it. It's part of your DNA. Your business is your child. I get it. You know your business. But so many times I hear, this is how my dad did it. This is how my granddad did it. This is how we've always done it. And that never makes it the right way to do it. It might be, but that doesn't make it the right way to do it. Owners, I find, and you can all tell me I'm wrong, but holding a mirror up to what an owner does can be frightening and intimidating. Sometimes owners are more comfortable in the environment they've created, even though they have the ability to know it can be better, but the concept of changing is more frightening than staying where they're at. If you're an old guy like me, I go for a physical twice a year. I don't want to go, but I go. And that physical is holding a mirror up to my face, right? So it's your business. It's your baby. Don't you want your baby to be as healthy as possible? Hold that mirror up to what you do. Sometimes you might be pleasantly surprised that there's more opportunity than what you've developed. Industry-specific challenges. Contractors have their own, manufacturers, distributors, restaurateurs. Everybody's got their own unique set of circumstances. Contractors typically don't worry about inventory, but they certainly worry about labor control. How they bid a job, how they execute a job, change orders, collecting on retainage. Contractors have their unique set of challenges. Manufacturers, they worry about scheduling, inventory coming in right on time, right? Scrap, rework, equipment utilization. Manufacturers have their own unique challenges. Distributors, inventory turns, margins, inventory pricing. They all have challenges. And each one of them can enhance what they do. And you think about this. If your business is a $10 million business, 1% is $100,000. Well, 1% for 5 years is retirement money. It's $500,000. And you build upon that and you ingrain that in your people. But every industry has its nuances and every industry has its solutions. So here's some solutions. We call this closed loop management. Accountability is not a bad word. It's something that everyone in your organization, starting with you, needs to embrace. Training and retraining, those are really keys to us. In fact, say your company is XYZ, our training program for XYZ will typically be called XYZ University, and we want to make it fun for your people to participate, to enhance their skill sets, to provide more opportunity for them. And you can see it becomes this circle of life. as they said on The Lion King, right? So accountability to a timeline, to a number, to a deliverable. Training and retraining so people have opportunity. Opportunity and empowerment. That's what people want to stay for. They don't want a job. They want opportunity and empowerment. And our secret sauce is what we call predetermined profit, which I'm going to show you on the next slide, which is what, when we look at a business, we want you to carve out what your profit is first, not last. And we tie it together with pay for performance. And we'll show you that in a second. Here's the second. Predetermined profit for us means you're not going to treat profit as a residual item. Sales, cost of sales, SG&A, net profit, right? That's what most people do. And I bet you everybody on this webinar today does the same thing. Sales, cost of sales, gross profit, SG&A, and net profit. Bet you all do that. Any one of you can tell me I'm wrong, but I bet you all do that. Predetermined profit says profit's going to be our first line item of expense. Why? So you have a company doing, what did we say before, $10 million? And you've taken a risk. You have a bank $1 million. You are responsible for the 47 employees that work for you. You have to cover payroll taxes. Maybe you're absorbing 70% of their health insurance costs. You have taken a risk to be an owner. You deserve a specific reward. That reward is what we call predetermined profit. And if that number should be 5% on your $10 million business, then it's 10 million less 500,000 leaves you $9.5 million. Sounds simple, the math is simple. The creating it is what's difficult. Out of that 9.5, we're going to teach you how to go fixed costs and then variable costs and work it so that you get the return you should get as the owner. That's tier 1 profit, predetermined profit, first line item of expense. Tier 2 profit for us is the profit you're going to get above and beyond the level 1. And we're going to teach and train you people how to help you get there. And what you're going to do with that level 2 profit is share it equally between growing your business and enhancing your employees with an incentive plan. And so many times I hear from folks, we tried incentive plans, they don't work. You haven't tried mine. I'm telling you, you haven't tried mine. So here's the deal. I don't ever try to tell an owner what to do. Make suggestions, make recommendations. Those that want to do better, we have great dialogue. Those that don't, that's okay. So I've been doing this for 28 years. And I've owned American Management now at 71 years old for all of 2026. Owners are optimistic and dedicated to their businesses. I'm sure you all are. Every owner wants to create something that is special, their own brand, their own legacy, something special. When we come out and we do an assessment for a business risk review, we don't judge, we enhance. We use AI to help enhance. We use our hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of experience to try to teach and enhance. Open-minded owners love us. We're realistic, and we believe your business can execute at a higher level. That doesn't matter if you don't believe it can execute at a higher level. And if you think it can, and you think that my company can provide value to you, then we should chat. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Lou, I think that was great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I'm sure he's touched a few arteries or veins in your business. It's time to ask and raise your hand and ask a question. So Lou, let me ask you this. Why is it so difficult for folks to, you mentioned that the business is their babies. Difficult for them to come to grips with reality sometime when you're engaged and you're trying to help them, but they may get in your way.
I think that pride is very challenging for people. I think for a stranger to come into their building and tell them that there might be another way or a better way, I think it's not easy for an owner to accept. I get that. I'm as stubborn as any other owner out there. Right. So I understand that. But if they take it in the spirit of not being judgmental, but being supportive to try to enhance, to create opportunity, I think that more owners should want to do that diagnostic and want to do that physical checkup enhancement of where they're at. But it's an emotional roller coaster for an owner. It's their baby, and I get it. I just, I look for the ones and want to work with the ones that are a little separate, a little open-minded. When I think about the challenges I put up there, Dr. Harmon, whether it's margins, cash flow, I read so much and I spend so much time. I try to get here at 7:30 in the morning, and I'll work with people at midnight if they're on different time zones, because it's not about what matters to me. It's about what matters to an owner and how to enhance their opportunity. But when you think about margins and cash flow and all the issues that owners have to deal with, I'm blown away that they don't have a real support system around them all the time. Not homegrown just support, but real professional support. Not people trying to take money from them, people trying to earn the right to help them enhance what they've got. That's what blows me away sometimes.
Is there a common theme that runs across all industries that you might encounter where businesses are having similar issues?
Sure. In today's world, it happened to us yesterday and today. Every owner we met with yesterday and today had one common complaint. I can't find people. I can't find talent. I can't get them to come to work with me. I had one gentleman in Houston 2 weeks ago bark at me that all 16 of his salespeople are no good, and they've gotten lazy since the pandemic. Nobody wants to work. And I said to him, Charlie, what part of that are you responsible for? Right? I mean, but it's easy to defend when you're not happy with where you're at. It's human nature to do that, right? It's not me, it's the economy, it's the tariffs, it's Washington, it's Trenton, it's everybody but me. But today's day and age, it is finding quality talent and keeping.
So there are a number of businesses that are part of the chamber that have very few employees. So hypothetically, if you have a business, it's the owner and maybe 3 other employees, and they're all doing various roles in the business. And so cross-training is important. Based on that, which would be the area that you would think that they need to be protecting as most as possible in terms of succession, to make sure they have another person that could do 1 or 2 tasks when you got a small team? I guess the question is, how do you best position a small team for growth, sustainability, and the future?
Well, I think Bill Gates started in a garage somewhere or something like that. And I think Hewlett Packard started in a basement or a garage. You got to start with something, but you got to have a dream, and a plan. Can't just be a dream. You got to have a dream and you got to have a plan. And I think if you have a newer business with 3, 4, 5 employees, you need to make sure you're not the bookkeeper, you're not the accountant. Focus on what each person's strengths are, and then try to enhance them, because that's the way you're going to grow the business. And I love small businesses like that, because they have nothing but the future and the runway in front of them.
I think that's great. Did that stimulate any questions from the audience?
There's 2 in the Q&A.
Good. I got a hard stop at 1:30.
The first question was, how can business owners identify where they are losing money without immediately cutting staff or reducing services?
Okay, so first of all, I've refused to work with anyone in my 28 years here where the way out of the solution was to eliminate staff. To me, it's always about enhancing, training, developing. But if the owner has let the business fall to the curb or the gutter, then real reality has to take place. So we have a tool that we use, and you can do it yourselves, where we spread your last 4 years financials, balance sheet and income statement, but we spread them in terms of percentages to look at what areas you've let get out of control. So if your gross profit was 37% 4 years ago, and today it's 33%, you've lost 4 percentage points. You can find out where that loss took place by comparing yourself to you. All right, so I would start by doing that. Lay out your balance sheet and your income statement for 4 years. Look at percentage-wise what's changed, highlight, figure out why, and then look to how to address and correct that.
Thank you. The next question is, what is one change you've seen a business owner make that seems small but ultimately had a major impact on profitability?
I'm going to give you one that was small to begin with, but it turned out to be gigantic. I had a client years ago that could sell snow to the Eskimos, but he couldn't run his business. And he was a young man, probably in his early mid-40s, and decided he was going to bring in professional help. And what that professional help did was demote him and made him sales manager, and hired a full-time CEO on a 3-year temporary contract to run the business. And the CEO that we brought in was a retired IBM gentleman that only wanted to work for 3 more years. So it was a perfect fit. The owner understood what it took to become great, and 18 million became 60 million in 3 years. Takes courage to do that, though, Nicole. You know, a lot of owners don't ever want to do that. Takes courage to step down and let somebody else have the keys. But he had the keys with controls.
Excellent. That's a great story. So thank you for that. What are some warning signs that a business has grown too quickly?
Okay, so you're out of cash and you can't get out of your line of credit, are things that happen when you grow too fast. So here's the excuses I hear when people just cannot stop maxing out their line of credit. We need to buy inventory, we're carrying receivables. Yes, I understand that, but to what degree? If you've got $1 million line of credit, you're at 980 used all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time, you don't have cash flow, you have a problem. You might have a margin problem, you might have a receivable collection problem, you might have too much payroll depending on your industry, but rapid growth without the real balance sheet to support rapid growth can kill you from a liquidity perspective. I've seen it happen too many times.
Thank you.
Sure.
How can you tell the difference between a revenue problem and an expense or operational problem?
So again, remember when I said before, if you take the 4 years financials and you spread them, so you have absolute dollars, then convert that to percentages and look what's changed. So if your revenue is going up by 8% per year, but your cost of goods sold is going up by 10% a year, or your SG&A is going up by 7 or 8% a year, it's exceeding the growth in your revenue. You're going to have a profit and therefore a cash flow and a liquidity problem for sure.
Well,
Thank
I gotta
you.
get to the next one. So Nicole, if there's other questions, you guys could socialize with Lou. I know we scheduled this for pretty much at time, but is there a
10:30.
burning question out there?
I don't see any other questions that are open.
So folks, I put my email, and my cell phone is on here. My cell is 407-340-6644. If anyone wants to text me and chat in private, I'm happy to do it. I respect everything the chamber does in New Jersey. Want to support anyone that's there. Don't be part of the 38% that thinks borrowing is your answer. Don't do that, okay?
All right, y'all be good. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Great job.
Thank you so much.